number one, before you say it, ask yourself, is it the truth? Number two, ask yourself, is it necessary or is it needed for me to even say this? Number three, is it the right audience? Should I really say this in the presence of these people that are around me right now? Number four, my mind just went back, truth, needed, audience. What's the other one, Kurt? Is it the right time? And I teach this to all of our staff members, so we live by it. They have it memorized as well. Is it the right time to say it? And number five, am I saying it with the right attitude and the right spirit? And if you'll adopt these 5 rules of communication and leadership, it will shock you how many times you'll stop and just won't say it. I really don't need to say that. It's not necessary. Or now is not the right time because they're really upset and I'll get a different reaction. Or now is not the right time because we're surrounded by an audience of people and they're going to respond differently and maybe not the way they ought to respond. 5 key components to communication. Because you see, as leaders, as owners, as dealers, as managers, we have a responsibility to understand that everything we say and everything we do is creating a reaction. And unfortunately, it's like a domino. Because if we have 200 employees, we could say one thing and it'd end up with the 200th employee and go through every single one of them. Can you believe what Pat Kelly said? Can you believe what he did? We have a fiduciary responsibility to always recognize that we are in leadership. Number 2, we must let our team members know what our expectations are. We must put it in writing. We talk all the time. Let's put it in writing. Let's have them sign it. A team member's creed is so powerful. Why is this so important? Well, we think many times that they can actually read our minds. We think, well, they ought to know. I assume, Kurt, you ought to know. You've been with me 5 years. You ought to know. No, Kurt, it's my responsibility as a leader to make sure you truly understand what our expectations are as a team member. A good understanding calls for a good friendship and a good relationship. Number 3, we must provide our team members with constant training for continued success. And dealers, I'm sorry, but I'm going to step on your toes for a minute. Oftentimes as dealers, we're willing to remodel our facilities, inventory more cars, train our technicians, certify them. We'll invest in advertising, marketing, but we refuse to set aside a training budget to train and develop our salespeople and sales managers. When is the last time we sent them to a time management course? And now they can do it online. Time management's critical. We got the old 80-20 rule running, right? 80% of our results come from what? 20% of their time. So if we actually got them to work a little bit more in productive activity, got them to buy into the vision, explain to them that 120,000 a year is 92 cents a minute, so you got to manage the minutes, you manage the minutes, minutes turn to hours, hours weeks, weeks months, months years, you're going to have a successful year. And see, we assume they can do their own math. They can't. They need us to break it down for them, paint a vision for them, put a plan together, and mandate and hold them accountable to be successful. You know, I love to do the speech, and I initially was going to do that today where we study Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, and John Wooden, and what made those 3 coaches great. And each one of them were distinctively different, but yet they got great results. If you study Vince Lombardi in football, you study John Wooden in basketball, and Tom Landry in football, it's amazing how they were so much alike, but yet so different. But the things that they all stood for, I love what Landry said. He said, the will to win is nothing without the will to prepare to win. So preparation is not ready, fire, aim, which is how we do the business in the car business, ladies and gentlemen. It's ready, aim, fire. Aiming is what? Training. It's coaching, teaching, educating, and motivating. And ladies and gentlemen, know without a doubt that it starts with you. The responsibility at Car Research XRM and my company begins. It lives in my soul. Sean, you represent and exude everything your company is about. They take on our attributes. If we're complainers, if we have negative attitudes, if we're inconsistent, if we're lazy, if we're egotistical and arrogant, if we're rude to customers, we've written a blank check to them that says, you can act like I'm acting. But if we're not those things, so we set the proper and the right example, we are telling them a message that you do it as I do it. You speak as I speak, you live as I speak, and we're going to win together. I sit with managers all the time. And I remember, and I get emotional. Where would I be today if Leo Martin hadn't come back to the Brazoria County Boys Club and got me? A country boy from Franklin, Tennessee. Didn't know my dad. My mama, bless her heart, the most money she probably ever made in her life was $500 in a month. I found myself supporting my mom the minute I began to make a little bit of money. If Leo hadn't to come to get me, where would I be? Let me ask you this. If you went home and looked at yourself in the mirror and you had to evaluate yourself as a leader, truthfully, what would your people say about you? Would they say, I know you care about me. I know you're interested in me. I know you care about my family, my success. I know that you want to help me. Would they say that? Or would they say things like, you're inconsistent, you're unavailable, you talk down to me, you don't care, you don't listen, you don't force me to do the things to be successful? Lombardi said, my players hated to love me and they loved to hate me. He said they hated me all the way to the championship game. But once we got there, Sean, Vince Lombardi was one place. They carried him off the field on their shoulders, and they loved him. But he was focused. He was so focused that one day they had one car, and he would get to the football field at 5 a.m. in the morning. His neighbor's car had broken down, and his neighbor said, Vince, can I ride to work? He said, sure, my friend, yes, you can, sir. So the wife is driving, Miss Lombardi. His neighbor, the man, is sitting in the middle. Lombardi's going to be dropped off first at the football field at 5 a.m. They pull up, he opens the door, he leans over, he kisses his neighbor on the cheek and says, have a great day, honey, and gets out of the car. He was so focused, he forgot he had the neighbor in the car. He kissed his neighbor instead of his wife. And they said that's how Lombardi was. He was like a torpedo of focus. And he played the players that gave him the effort. I love the story that we mentioned about the coach from Notre Dame. And his name just flew from my head. I wasn't planning to speak about it. Lou Holtz. And he tells a story how that he took over a losing program. They finally made it to the Cotton Bowl. At halftime, they were up 10-0. They relaxed. Arkansas came back and beat them in the second half. Lou Holtz said he walked into the locker room and he looked and there was this huge lineman sitting there, bawling like a baby, with his helmet beside him. He looked around. Everybody else is in the showers. And he looked and noticed his uniform wasn't even dirty. It was still clean. He never even got in the game. And Lou Holtz said, oh my God, this guy cares more than anybody else. And he wasn't even in the game. And Lou Holtz said, I made a decision that I'm not going to put the most talented people and the people with the most experienced players on the field. I'm going to put the players that show me they have heart and desire, they're committed, and they want to win. So he did that the next year, and he won a national championship. And that guy won the Outland Trophy Award, became a captain of the team, an amazing individual. So we need to be looking for people that really understand our mission. But the only way they're going to get it is by us training and developing them. Our minds are like plants. They need nurturing. They need water, Gatorade for the brain, especially in this tough market. They need encouragement. They need to believe in believing. We need to be teaching them the skills. You know, I say all the time that prospecting the household, I have it memorized. Everyone that works for me has it memorized. I believe that prospecting the household is the most important tool that we have in car dealerships today and the most underused. How to call a customer and say, happy birthday, thanks for coming in. I know you didn't buy, you bought another car, want to touch base. Thanks for buying parts, doing service with never, doesn't matter. While I have you on the phone, just to update my records. How many drivers do you have in your family? 3. How many vehicles? 3. Of your 3 drivers, 3 vehicles, who's most likely to replace their vehicle next? Probably the wife. Why do you say that? Where car's out of warranty, paying for repairs. What's your wife's name? What kind of car she's driving? What's the monthly payments? You know what the estimated payoff is? When she's in the market, she's going to want a new or used, probably a new car, truck, or SUV. She's going to want a new car. How far out are you? 1 year. Oh, that's too bad. Why do you say that? Well, we got $8,000 of rebates and 1.9% financing on cars right now. And the car you just described that she's driving will never be worth more money than it is today. In fact, we're looking everywhere for inventory like that. If you bring it in today, you're going to get top dollar. There's a percentage of people that if our people knew how to prospect a household, that would actually make it a point to be in tomorrow. And there's people that say, no, call me back in 3 months. I'm going to send an extra reminder, Invent Solutions or Car Research, because those are the only 2 great CRM tools out there. Right, Sean? Can I get a yes on that? And we're not prejudiced about that at all. But I'm going to put a note to remind me to call him back in 3 months. And I know the wife's name, the car she's driving, the payments on it. I know she's going to want a new car. There's a 3rd driver. You have a daughter in high school, graduating college next spring, so I contact. And y'all follow me. What's her name? What's she driving now? What are you going to be looking for? I believe prospecting the household is as important to us as a screwdriver is to an electrician, a Bible to a preacher, a hammer to a carpenter. But see, we have not taught them. We've not taught them. We've not trained them. We're just mad at them. And 50% of our sales force continues to turn over and over and over again as we continue to hire people that are instant gratification driven. We blame them. Might it be that the responsibility actually is in this room today? That if we looked in the mirror, we might find the answer to the solution. The next one is we must provide our team members with consistent motivation and recognition. People need to be motivated and recognized. Sometimes, could we ever just catch someone doing something good? We as managers, we catch every demo that doesn't get put back in the line. We catch everyone that comes to work late or leaves early. We catch all the mistakes, but do we ever catch them when they do something right and say, great job? You did it, Sean. Thank you, man. I saw you put the demo back. I appreciate that. Thanks for showing up early. Thanks for getting your daily planner done. Let's enforce positive reactions. You know, a great memory I have of my son is one day, I remember he was about 7 years old, and I'm a single dad, and I'm coming home from a softball game, and it's about 11 o'clock at night, and it was about a Friday night, and we had a long weekend ahead, and we're going to go see the San Antonio Spurs, see the Houston Rockets play. And I saw him chewing, and I said, Michael, what are you chewing? Nothing, Dad. I said, son, I saw you chewing. Oh, Dad, I'm not. I pulled over the side of the road, and I said, son, open your mouth. He opens his mouth, and I could see a yellow starburst plastered against the top of his mouth. He didn't swallow it. He wanted to save it, Sean. He's going to chew it and finish it up in a minute. I said, son, what is that in the roof of your mouth? He closed his mouth, swallowed hard, and gave up the starburst. It was gone. He goes, nothing, Dad. I said, son, empty your pockets. He pulled his pocket out, and there was a yellow Starbucks cover in there. And I go, what's that? He goes, Dad, I have no idea how that got in my pocket. I said, son, this is an interesting occurrence we're having here. I said, son, I just want you to tell me the truth. I want to teach you the value of truth. It's like the son and the dad the dad asked the son, did you push the outhouse over, son? And the son said, no. And he said, son, I'm asking you, did you push the outhouse over? No, Dad, I didn't. Son, let me tell you a story about George Washington, the father of our country. His daddy asked him if he cut the cherry tree down. And George Washington was finally honest with his daddy and said, no, I did not cut the cherry tree down. So, son, George Washington's daddy did not whip him because he was honest. And the father said to the son, I'm going to ask you one more time, did you push the outhouse over? And he said, well, Dad, since you told me the story about George Washington, I want to be truthful too and tell you, I did push the outhouse over. The dad pulled the belt off and started spanking his son. And the son said, hold on, Daddy, what are you doing? You told me the story. And the dad said, well, the difference between you and I and George Washington, his daddy, is George Washington's daddy was not in the cherry tree when he cut the cherry tree down. That's the difference. And I was in that outhouse when that happened. So I'm trying to teach my son the value of truth. When he lied, he just lied like a rug, Tom. He would not come forthcoming. So I took the tickets away. I took his basketball away, his bicycle away. I took everything I could think of away, and he still would not break down. Till the next morning, Saturday morning, I was at the dealership. He calls him from the house, and he's crying. He goes, Daddy, it's Michael. I go, I know, son. I know your voice. I just want to be honest with you. And I said, you do? About what? I did have a yellow starburst in my mouth. I go, son, no kidding. I saw it. I saw the wrapper. Well, Daddy, can we go to the Spurs game tonight? No, son, we can't, because you chose to lie. And you may say, well, what's the method there? Well, we as leaders must be consistent. We must enforce what we enforce. We must stand. That's why we got to be careful for policies we put in place. We got to make sure whatever we put in place and say we're going to do, we're committed to do it. Because the minute we don't, guess what? They lose respect. And they don't believe us anymore. And when they do a great job and they fulfill our expectations, we need to reward them with recognition. And we must paint a vision. Do you remember? I didn't know you could make $5,000 a month. Never dreamed. I never knew I could go to Maui twice in 1 year or go to Marbella, Spain on a dealer trip and have a Crown and Coke that cost $20 paid for by the manufacturer. And stay in Marbella, Spain in the Spanish Riviera. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And the dealer, it was all paid for. The manufacturer paid for everything. I had no vision of that when I first came to work in the car business, that any of that could happen for me. Or that I could become an F&I director and make $120,000 a year or $200,000 or $300,000 a year and have a great home and a nice car and provide for my kids as it never was for me. Vision is so important.